Hello, beautiful moms and entrepreneurs. My name is Charisse Walker, and I'm your host of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. This is a place where we come together to learn, grow, and inspire. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Hello, Unbreakable Mompreneurs. I have a question for you. Are you someone who just feels like you're on this uphill battle where each time you turn, you feel like there's another roadblock in the way? Well, today we're going to actually talk to June, and she has had similar issues. Fortunately, a death of a son, a divorce of a husband, but she's written a book and she's rebounded back and she's done lots of different things, and now she's helping women with neuro-linguistic programming as well as other things. So today, without further ado, June, why don't you introduce yourself to our guests?
Hey, like you said, I am June, and I am a mom of two. One that's an angel and one that is still with me. She is going to be 11 in April. And yeah, so I actually work full time, a different job. And then I wrote a book and I'm about to release another book. And then I wrote a book about my experience with child loss, helping other mothers. And I run a group now with other mothers and I help them go through their child loss from the beginning. And then there's some of people that are in there that have been in there they've lost their children over 5, 10 years ago. So it's a group of women that I help too. I also help them.
Well, thank you. Now I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Charisse Walker, the host of Unbreakable Mompreneurs. So, it's a hard subject to talk about. And people always feel like, or sometimes I feel like I don't really know what to say. I don't know how to dance around it. I don't know if I like hit it head on or ignore it. Like, what is your opinion
Yeah.
when someone says they find out you lost a child? Like, how should we approach that?
Hmm. I think that's part of everybody's mystery.
Mhm.
Um, that's one reason why I wrote the book. Obviously, it's for moms, but it's geared towards a family member could pick it up and read it and kind of understand what they're going through. And it's such a touchy subject, and everybody feels like they're alone. But the biggest thing that I always tell everybody when it comes to child loss and knowing that a friend, lost a child, it doesn't matter what you say. It's kind of more of just being there. And I can remember people saying one or two sentences to me, and it meant the world to me.
Mhm.
And they were simple sentences. One that I remember, and I can't hardly remember anything from when I first was going through my child loss was one of my cousins sat down next to me, and he was just like, "No parent should have to go through this." And it
Mhm.
was just a simple statement, and we sat there in silence. And I think that's the biggest thing is like as for me going through it and for other mothers going through it, it was just someone being there. Didn't have to say anything. And we feel so alone anyway. So, just being there. It's nothing you can say, bring, do, or anything like that. But again, that's why I wrote the book because it was just, I felt like I was alone in my thinking and what I was going through as well.
Yeah. I remember I came from my uncle's funeral and I hadn't
Mhm.
seen my aunt in a couple years, I guess. And I just said, "Oh, hi." I gave her a hug. I said, "How are you?" And she's not doing well.
Yeah.
Like, why?
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh my gosh. And I actually said, "I'm so sorry," because sometimes we just automatically say things. And so I think
Yeah.
knowing that people are genuine, they're sincere, that they don't mean any ill will, that's a tough thing.
Mhm.
But how did you start to rebuild your life after that? Because you have another child, right? Was
Yes.
was she older or younger than your?
She's younger.
Oh,
She's
okay.
younger. I had her after.
Okay.
So I am a self-admitted introvert.
Mhm.
I'm one of those very introverted people. And when I was going through my loss, they were like, you have to go to therapy, you have to go to counseling, and you have to go to group therapy and do all this stuff. And I'm like, oh no, I'm not doing all the people thing. I'm not doing the peoply thing. That's just not me. And I was sitting there, I can remember still to this day, I was sitting on the couch with my minoxidil, and I was like, I don't want to live like this. And I was only 31,
Mhm.
and I would have been 32 that year. But I sat there and I was like, I got to figure it out. And I was actually taking my bachelor's degree at the time, and I was in my last class when my son died.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I graduated, yeah, everything, timing was just crazy, but I got an extension and obviously I graduated with my bachelor's degree. And one way for me to deal with my grief, I was like, I'm going to throw everything on my plate I possibly can. So I started taking a master's degree in forensic psychology. And forensic psychology is the study of the criminal mind. But as I was taking it, and just the way that they thought and the way that the mind works and stuff, I was like, man, this is pretty interesting. I wonder if I learn about the mind, if I can switch the way that I'm feeling.
Mm,
And that's what got me started into it was that master's degree. And obviously I graduated with a master's degree and then I started learning about the mind and just how NLP, I've done a lot of things, but NLP to me was like the one that I was like, you can just basically, and I say trick your mind, but it's not. It's about an understanding where you're going and how to basically change your view on something.
mm,
And so I started doing that. I started NLP. I did cognitive behavioral therapy and acceptance and commitment therapy. And I read like so many books on the mind, and it interests me. Like some people that doesn't interest, but that was how I learned how to deal with it. And I learned about triggers and just positive versus negative thinking. And there's just so much that goes on with the mind, and like we don't use that much of our mind anyway, And I was just like, I'm gonna try it. What am I gonna lose? I was at that, I was in such a dark place at that time. And I always tell everybody, I never said I was going to kill myself, but I was in that dark place where I was like, if something happened, I'd be okay. And that's like, that's totally not the way to think, but that's just where I was at.
right.
And slowly and surely I ended up just picking myself up by that. And then after I did that, and I started, you have friends and family that lose children and I started helping them.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, I can do this. And I always say you have to read it, like with your loss, you have to read it, read what happened. You have to talk about it. You have to think about it, and you have to live a different life. And that was like some of the big things that I did is like, because I started where I couldn't even think about it without crying. And then I would go through my loss, and then I was okay thinking about it. Then it was just reading something, a comment someone said about my son or his obituary or just something like that, and I couldn't do it. So then I read out loud about just different comments and stuff. And then I got used to that. Speaking in front of people about my loss, it took a long time before I could because I would get choked up. And it was just little steps at a time until I got to where I am now. But it basically it started with going through that master's degree program and being like, there's something to this mind stuff. I mean, you hear about all your life, your mind is a powerful thing and you can do anything if you have positive thinking and stuff, but it didn't hit home, obviously, until I was going through my loss.
And I think that's something where when I remember my very first brokerage I was ever with, that they were all about this mind junk, is what I called it. You know,
Hmm.
positive affirmations. Let's talk about this and what self-help book. And I'm like, what is your guys' problem? Like, I just remember sitting there going, really, this is so ridiculous. And so I actually left the brokerage because I'm like,
Yeah,
you are too woo-woo. Like, I don't need
yeah.
that in my life. And then I met a coach where she's just like, it's mindset, it's mindset, it's mindset. And so like the very first three modules was mindset. And then it went into it. And that was the first time. I mean, it was a simple thing where she wrote a book called Stop, Snap, and Switch. It's
Hmm.
Krista Mashore. And like you'd stop, you'd snap this rubber band, and then you'd switch it to the other arm. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's dumb. And then I
Hmm.
started doing it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that's life changing.
Yeah, like and I can remember reading too, like
Mhm.
affirmations, and I actually did
Mhm.
have one. So the affirmation that I had was, I've already lived my worst day. Every day after that is going to be better than that day was. And basically from that affirmation, I kept saying it over and over and over again. And they say that once you say it over and over and over again, one day you're going to believe it. And for a while, I did that a lot.
Mhm.
And yeah, I did that a lot. And you wouldn't think something as simple as like an affirmation would be okay and you're going to be fine, but it really is a mind game.
Yeah, it is. Now, mine was forgiving someone very dear that wronged me really horribly. And I finally, it's like, I have to forgive. I have to forgive. It took about a year and a half, but, and
Yeah.
a lot of prayer. I'm not going to discount that one. But
Yeah.
It really, like it did, it went away. And I never thought I could ever, because I'm that type of person. And let me ask my listeners as well. Like, if you wrong me, I never forget, and I will never trust you again. And for this
Yeah.
person, I actually do trust them and I do love them. And so I find it interesting that your mind, because your mind doesn't know, like they talk about that. So in my book, I talk about the gut, the heart, and the brain,
Yeah.
and how the gut, like everything goes into your gut. And so that's why they trust your gut. And
Mhm.
once you can make decisions, then that has to go through your heart and then it goes to your brain. And so you have things working for you behind the scenes before your brain ever starts processing stuff. And so I think that that's the part, is if we talk to ourselves in the positive way, and eventually, yeah, it worked. And I'm happy to hear that it worked for you as well. So that's good.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand that like your subconscious mind,
Hmm.
you are all the time thinking about
Yeah.
stuff. That's one of
Hmm.
the big things that I learned was like it's always thinking, whether you're actually consciously thinking of it or not.
Hmm.
If you have all of this negative, your subconscious is still going at it with that negative. You just don't know.
The statistic I saw is 11 million bits per second, a subconscious, and 50 bits conscious. So it's
Mhm.
like, I can't even fathom that number, right? And then
Yeah,
of
no.
all those thoughts that you have, 80% are negative and 95% repetitive. And it's just like, it's a lot. I love that you're doing that. So how have you used this experience that is not pleasant and that's very heartbreaking? How have you used that to change the trajectory of your life? What are you doing now?
Well, I didn't talk about this before, but like when I was going through my loss, obviously, when you have a traumatic event, you
Mhm.
have the traumatic event that you're going through. And then I also, and a lot of people have all the stuff that you aren't proud of that you did way before. And I had all those demons too to fight.
Mhm.
And basically, I fought all those demons so I could start, as I say, a clean slate.
Yeah.
And I just try now, I try to live my life where I help people on a daily basis and I try to be positive. And I'm not saying like every day is going to be positive for somebody because it's not, but I try to look at the good in everything. You know, like if I'm having a really bad day, I always tell people you can have a bad minute, a bad hour, a bad day, bad month, bad year. It's up to you. And
Mhm.
a lot of times now, what I do is I change where I'm at. I just veer or pivot somewhere else for
Mhm.
the time being. And I try to actively do that. And I try to actively think about decisions I make in my life before I make them. Is it going to be a positive or negative? And it's something that I didn't do back then. And I was young. All
Yeah.
of us are young and we do all these crazy things. But I think that's a big thing too. Is just like when everything that I do is with a purpose, whether it's going to the store to do something or going to the grocery or just whatever it is, I always try to do something with a purpose and not just doing just to do.
Mhm. I love that. And I think, like you, when we're young, we don't always think of the downhill effects of our decisions. And we don't
Yeah.
think, I look back at some of the things I've done, I'm like, I would never have done that. Like, why did I do
Yeah.
that? You know? And
Yeah.
it's just not even in my world. And had I known then what I know now, like it's very interesting. So let me ask you that question. If you were sitting on a park bench and talking to your 19-year-old self, what advice would you give her?
I would, I guess like the big thing for me, especially around that age, number one, I would tell her, hey, just slow down. At that age, I was so busy trying to be an adult. I bought my first house when I was 20 and I had to have a job and I had to have a career. And I would just tell her the big thing would be slow down. You're going to be an adult soon enough. And then the second thing I would tell her is life's not going to be just, I call them flowers and roses. It's not always going to be like that, but you're going to get through all of it because at that age, you're so young, you don't know. And you're still, I don't know, you're still trying to figure out yourself, I think, and where you want to go and what you want to do. But those are the two big things, just to slow down and you're going to go through some stuff, but
Mhm.
you're going to come out better. I think those are the two biggest things.
So I'm going to ask a question, and I hope that you do not take it wrong because I do not intend for it that way. But sometimes the worst things that can happen to us become the biggest gifts.
Mhm.
And so I'm not saying that the loss of your son is a gift because it's not, but
Right.
what gifts have you been able to take from that experience?
Yeah. That's funny that you mentioned that because there's a lot of people that wonder that, like friends, family, and people I've met since my son's passing. Obviously, first off, nobody wants to go through it. Everybody knows that. But I can say because of my son's death, I'm a better person. I'm a better mom to my daughter.
Mhm.
I'm just a better person and I am more goal oriented. I guess kind of I live my life where if my son is looking down at me, I want him to be proud of me. And obviously I want my daughter to too, don't get me wrong, but that's the way I want to live my life. And it was a blessing because back then when I was going through everything with him and then when he did finally pass away, I say I was so confused.
Mhm.
uh, so it's also turned me away from, I was that person that would be like, I have to do everything. I have to do this because someone asked me. I have to do that. And it made me
Yeah.
be more centered to what do I want to do? So obviously no child loss isn't good, but it did grounded maybe is a good word. It's grounded me and it's made me better at the things that I do. So
And I'm listening to your, like, it's not a gift. So I don't know the
yeah,
word queen of botched delivery. That's not the word that
yeah, yeah.
I use, but yeah, like how can you take that? Because um I've spoken with a lot of people and it does change you in some way, shape, or form,
Hmm.
good or
Oh
bad.
yeah.
So for you, it seems like you really did take it and you help other people with grief. And obviously there's the stages of grief. How did you work through those? Particularly the angry part and or whatever you want to focus on.
Um, like the first stages, like the
Mhm.
shock and denial and stuff, I went through those pretty fast. But then I got into this depressive state for a while, and it wasn't for years or anything like that. But that was when I had that sit down on the couch, and I was like, I can't do this. The anger was there for a long time, and the anger first came when my son, when he was born. I had a complete placenta. I've had so much trauma. When my son was born, I had a complete placental abruption. And we both ended up obviously living through it. But basically, I lived through that and I was like, okay, we live to be together. No matter if he was special needs or not,
Mhm.
we lived to do it together. And then when he died, that anger, I was so mad. I was so mad. And I actually talk about it in my book. I was so mad with God too, because I'm like, everything you've thrown up to me at me at this point, I've been okay with and I've taken with stride, but why this?
Yeah.
And the anger was for a really, really long time, a really freaking long time. And I want to say probably 5, 6 years into my loss, I still had that anger with me, and I'm just like, I can't. But it was part of if I'm going to heal, well, and I say heal lightly because I don't think you heal, but if I'm going to be more positive and I'm going to change my life in all these different ways, I got to leave this behind.
Mhm.
And that's when it was just like, I'm never going to understand it,
Mhm.
but I'm gonna forgive for what circumstances that I've been given. And that's how it started because I had to release that anger. And oh man, I was so mad. I was so mad for a long time. And then the last stage where it says acceptance, you're supposed to accept it. And in my book, I talk about it a lot. I don't think you heal from child loss. I think and it might be from all loss, I don't know, but I don't think you heal from child loss. I think you learn how to deal with it. And I've always told all the women that I've helped that I think you learn to deal with it. And so like the acceptance part, I don't know really what they mean by that. I accept and I understand that he is gone, but I'll never accept that I wish he was still here with me. Like I can't fully accept it. And I accept the part that he is gone and that I'm going to make a better life for myself and obviously my daughter. But I don't know, that part's hard too because I can't, I don't know, it's like you accept your child. I'm like, I can't, I don't, you know what I mean? It's just weird to say that.
Yeah. And I think so I cannot relate. I can't.
Hmm.
Um, and so what I can relate to is a miscarriage that I had. So I had a couple of
Yeah.
them. And for me, it's weird. Like I'll get emotional. It's going to be 11 years this weekend. I actually just thought about that. And I was going through some old pictures and I saw this. I had the opportunity to hold that miscarriage in my hand for a short time. Like, it's a weird story. I won't even go into it. But long story short, for me, because I didn't carry that child to full term, I knew it was a boy, but I like it was a miscarriage, and it's just weird stuff. But I came across a picture yesterday and I'm like, oh, a flood of emotions. His My
Yeah.
daughter was born a year to the day that I lost him, which is very, very weird. It was not, I didn't even know it till I was in the hospital filling out all that paperwork when they ask about all the kids you've had. I don't even know why they asked that. And it hit
Yeah.
me, gosh, it's been a year. And I went through like deep depression
Yeah.
and like I didn't even know what it was. And I was just always sad, always depressed. And I was still like going through the day because I had so many other kids to take care of. But people don't talk about that because
Mhm.
you have a loss and you have someone, you got to see him and you got to hold him and you had to experience what you went through with him. Mine
Mhm.
was very, very sudden. There was no emotions, like no expressions, no interactions. And so I think sometimes like I don't know that person. I don't know what they would have been like. I don't know what they look like. I don't, but it's hard. And I think that we just don't talk about that sometimes because people are
Yeah.
supposed to be like, "Hey, you're okay. Yeah, it's a death. Move on with your life." And I don't think like for me, I couldn't imagine what you've gone through. And so I'm sorry.
No, one thing that you miscarriage, and I have women in my group that have miscarriaged
Mhm.
once or more than one time, but I think the biggest thing with that is that people don't understand, and people on the outside don't understand that you're still going to grieve the loss. You grieve the loss of what that child would have been, who they would have been, their personality, who would they have looked like, what would they have done in life if they would have lived full term. So it's still grief, but people are like, oh, well, you can just have another child, or I heard that one, or because my son with special needs, oh, well, you couldn't do that for the rest of your life. I mean, it's my son, of course I could, but I think people don't understand that when women are miscarrying, it's grief.
Yeah.
It's grief. They go through a depression, and I think everybody that loses a child goes through the what did I do wrong?
Mhm.
That was one thing that happened to me was like I got to be the one to blame because I wasn't the one that woke up in the middle of the night, or I'm the one to be blamed because I should have ate better when I was pregnant, or I shouldn't have drank caffeine and I should have drank water. I mean, it's all this stuff that we put in our head. And again, it goes back to that mindset stuff, but it still is a loss. It's you're grieving whether you lose a child at 4 weeks all the way up to, like, there's some women in my group that they lost their kids in the 50s. And in fact, there's a mom that she just lost her daughter 2 days ago, and
Oh my
the
God.
mom is in their 70s and she lost her daughter to cancer. So it doesn't matter when it actually happens, it's still loss, it's still grief, and people don't understand that.
No, I totally agree with that.
Mhm.
All right, so let's switch gears for a minute because
Mhm.
talking a lot and like time's up. But so you've started a business, right? You still work a regular W-2,
Mhm.
right? But you also have another business on the side. So what was it like getting started?
Yeah. Well, so when I first started, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I'll go ahead and tell you, I didn't know that I wanted to even work with women that had lost children. But as I started helping more women, and people like family members knew that I had lost a child, and they were like, "Hey, can you talk to such and such person? Can you talk to this person?" And then now it's like, "Hey, can you send a book to me?" and stuff like that. And that's kind of how I got into it. It was just something that was needed. I guess you could call it like a little niche that's needed because nobody talks about it. And that's how I got thrown into it. I say thrown into it lightly. I love what I do.
Mhm.
And then obviously my book came out and I had that part of it. But it was just something that happened. It wasn't something like I'm going to do all this stuff and, because of my loss, I'm going to do this. It was just, I was just thrown into it on the back end. Obviously, I knew nothing about writing a book. I knew nothing about, I had the NLP stuff and the CBT, that NLP I had already started taking, and then like the CBT, and that's a cognitive behavioral therapy, and the other therapy certificates I got and stuff like that. Like I got that later on. So it was kind of like, okay, you know this stuff because you read about NLP, and then I want to help these women as much as possible. So I started getting more certificates. Let me try to learn more and more and more to help these women. So it was kind of like, yes, I had the basics and then I had to learn more. I say I was thrown into it, but I kind of wasn't. I mean, I was going through and I understood what they were going through, but it was kind of learn as you go too.
Yeah. No, it is. And sometimes you're called because of what you've gone through, you're called to help other people. And it sounds like that's kind of, it keeps pushing you forward to do.
Yeah.
So keep answering that call. Well, what is the name of your book?
My book is called Mama, You Don't Heal, and it plays off the idea that you learn how to deal with it instead of heal from it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Not wonderful what you went through again, but you can help other people because of that. So if our listeners wanted to find you, how would they do that? Or even the book?
Yeah, my book, the easiest place to tell you that my book is on Amazon. That's the easiest place. You could type my name into a search engine and it'll pop up. But I can be found on Instagram at Author June Kraholik, or I have a Facebook business page, which is the Serenity Dreamer, and also my author name. If they want to be in the private group, because I have a private group of, I think there's 1,700 women in there right now. And we just kind of talk about child loss. They throw pictures up of their kids when they're having bad days, and just a group of women talking about child loss. And I put stuff in there just to help them with their child loss, just different ideas and stuff, and they throw stuff in there. And then that group is at Women Surviving Child Loss. And it's only for women, and the only people in there are people that have lost children. I don't have anybody that hasn't lost a child, not in there. And child loss goes from miscarrying all the way to later in life. And then I am on TikTok, and that is Author June Kraholik as well.
That's fantastic. June, thank you so much. It's a hard thing you've gone through, but I know that, I mean, we didn't really talk about business today, but sometimes it just doesn't feel right. And I think we have a lot of listeners that do go through loss and they're trying to figure it out. I know I have a family member that it's been 12 years, actually almost 20 now. It's gone by fast for me, but they're still struggling. And it's different for every single person. And so I think it's easy to judge people, but you're not in their shoes. You don't know what they've gone through. You don't know what they're dealing with. And so being supportive is all you can do. And so I think that the fact that you have a group like that and there's that many women in it tells you that there's definitely a need. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad to do it.
It's hard though, I know.
Yeah. I am so used to it now talking about my loss. Like
Yeah.
it's easy for me, but a lot of women can't. But I'm glad I'm there, and I'm glad I'm doing something that is actually helping them. Like it means the world to me when I get a comment left on either my book, or someone messages me and says, "Hey, your book really helped me," or "Hey, thank you for talking to me." Um, I don't know, and that's kind of goes along with the business thing. That's what makes you want to go harder and go more. And gosh, I've worked 10 hours on social media posts, or making, I do like little videos for them as well. It makes it worth it, and those are usually the times that I get teary-eyed now, because I'm like, it's actually helping other women. So, I don't know. That's a big part of it, is just doing the hustle when the hustle, you don't want to do the hustle.
Well, clearly I still have issues because the flood of emotions, I can't stop crying. So it's been 11 years. It is something that we all, if you've experienced it, it's hard to go through. So thank you.
You're welcome.
And Unbreakable Moms, be just that. Be unbreakable. No matter what you're going through, you have support. There's people here, and especially if you've lost a loved one. I am so emotional today. If you've lost a loved one, reach out to June, because there are people that are here for you, and you don't have to go through it alone, and you're loved. So go out and make it a great day. Beautiful moms, remember, you are unbreakable. Keep illuminating the world with your strength, pursuing your dreams, and reveling in the splendor of motherhood. This is Charisse Walker, bidding you farewell for now. Stay tuned for more empowering conversations on the next episode of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. Until then, keep shining bright. Signing off with love, Charisse Walker.